So today I want to share with you guys what I consider by far and away the best powerlifting belt video here on YouTube. It's actually made by Matt over at Pioneer Powerlifting, whose belts I've been wearing for the past several years and are by far and away my favorite. And even though it's made by a belt manufacturer, I could say there's little to no bias in this video whatsoever. Now it is a little bit longer of a watch, about 25 minutes, but I can't stress enough how much you'll actually learn about powerlifting belts and about the brands you may or may not be considering. He covers everything from Inzer to SBD to Titan belts to Best belts, anything under the sun. So it's a really insightful and thoughtful video where you're going to end up learning a lot. And if you don't want to watch the whole video, which again I highly stress you do, I'll be sure to put timestamps for each individual belt in the description box so you can skip ahead. So without further ado, let's get to the video.
Hey guys, this is Matt at Pioneer. In front of me I have 9 of what I consider the best belts on the market right now. In this video I'm going to do a short segment on each and every one of these belts to try to give you guys an insider perspective from a manufacturer on materials used and manufacturing process. I hope you like it. So we're going to start this video with the Inzer belts. All these I believe were 10 millimeters ordered. They all measured out and mic'd out to be in between 11 and 12 millimeters thick. They're all within specs at 98 millimeters wide. They are IPF approved. They're actually approved for every federation that I know of. They're available in different colors. They advertise a 6-week lead time. Anybody that's ordered from Inzer knows that that can be faster or much slower. There's no real communication between Inzer and the end customer with how long it's actually going to take. They advertise that their belts are all one solid piece of the thickest, finest, select, exclusive leathers. It's actually not. It says, in their advertisement that it's not layers glued together to make thickness, when actually it is layers glued together to make thickness. As you can see, there's a good piece of leather, the lighter stuff, and then there's actually a darker piece of leather in there. From what I've found out, it's actually called Rowoh leather, and it's used for boot making and things like that as a stiffening agent and to make thickness. Here's actually a close-up of it. So it's not real leather. It can be torn real easily. But I do believe that this leather is the reason why these Inzer belts never really break in. They're stiff forever. The leather that they use outside of this Rowoh leather is actually good. It's going to be a veg tanned band, which is the best leather for the application. So the 10 millimeter belts are made with one solid piece of leather plus a piece of this cheap stuff, 2 pieces of suede. They are all sewn together either with a double stitch like these 10 millimeters are, or a triple stitch similar to this crane belt. The belts themselves are well put together. They're well made. They are going to last forever. They actually are guaranteed forever. So that is definitely a pro. They're solid. Some of the cons is that bad information that was being advertised. It is glued together layers, as they say it's not. They can actually be grouped together with the crane belt. I do believe that either Ricky Crane up in Oklahoma or Inzer over here in Texas is actually making each other's belts. They're very similar, if not identical. They use the same levers. They use the same procedures and manufacturing process as a cutout for the lever itself to clip into. All in all, the belts are around $90 to $100. The wait times are bad, but the belts are they're good. They're as advertised as far as a forever belt goes. The next belt is going to be the crane belt. This is very similar, if not identical, to the Inzer belts. The reason I know that is because of the cutout and the Rowoh leather being used for each. It's still a solid, good piece of veg tanned bend, along with that Rowoh cheap leather to make the belt stiff and not really leather-like as far as a break-in period. These belts will never break in. They're also guaranteed for life. The price range is right around $100. This is actually a 13 millimeter. It mic'd out to be right around 12 to 13 in that range, still at 98 millimeters wide. This, along with Inzer, is made in the United States. They are available in different colors. There is no advertised lead time on the Crane belts. I would assume that they're going to be similar to Inzer, where you're going to get it in 4 to 6 weeks. The leather board that's used in this, or the Rowoh leather, it's inexpensive. It's not really good for the application other than just for rigidity and stiffness. That part, if you like a stiff belt, is going to be a pro. If you want your belt to break in and form to your body, it's going to be a con. This belt, like Inzer and like Bob's in the next video, have this leather. They're the only 3 out of the 9 that I have to review that have it. So just to let you guys know that this belt, the Inzer belt and the Bob's belts, will never properly break in. They'll be stiff for the life of the belt. But as far as manufacturing itself goes, they're good. They're going to last a long time. The Bob's belt, this one was actually a 10 millimeter ordered. It came in to be around 11 to 12 millimeters thick, 10 centimeters almost exactly throughout as far as width goes. It's $155 for a stock belt, which is a little bit pricier, obviously, than the 2 previous. They are made in the United States. I do believe these guys do customization, so you can put your name on it and things like that. They advertise a 6 to 8 week lead time. The interesting thing about the Bob's belt is they do have that Rowoh leather just like the previous 2. So the belt itself will never actually break in. But what they do with this belt is they have that Rowoh leather all the way up here towards the rivets, through the back of the belt, and it ends at about the middle hole. So these guys will ask you for their middle hole, for the customer's middle hole, and they'll put that Rowoh leather all the way to that part. What that does is it leaves the tongue to be pliable so you can get it in and out of the buckle. I think that's a really cool feature. It's something that they do well. Out of the 3, if I had to make a recommendation, it would be Bob's. I think the belt itself was built beautifully. The first thing that I noticed with these belts is they don't have a start and stop in stitching. Usually there's an overlap to keep the stitching from undoing itself, whereas these don't really have it. They have this kind of cool design with the stitching going around the holes. Obviously you can tell that I've cut off the tongue to dissect it, but their belts are made similar as far as quality of materials and build process as the Inzer and the Crane. It's 1 piece of leather, 1 piece of Rowoh, 2 pieces of suede, and the thickness of that Rowoh leather will be what makes it a 13 or a 10 millimeter belt. The pros of this belt, the construction is nearly flawless. The rivets and burrs are good. They're much better than a 2-part rivet. These things actually flower within itself. It's almost like a washer on the inside of it. So the rivet will flower onto that washer, so it won't ever come apart. Another cool thing is that you guys can't really see and probably have never really seen, but they actually rivet the belt loops into the belt themselves. So the belt loop is sturdy. It's never going to break out like some of the other belts will. The leather board, as mentioned, it's going to keep it stiff. It will not allow for the belt to ever break in properly. If you want an actual leather piece that's going to function like a leather piece, you want to stray away from these belts. If you want a belt to be stiff and rigid throughout the life of the belt, this belt is better than the other 2 in my opinion as far as manufacturing process goes. The leather board is a big turnoff for me. I know it's cheap, and I know what the price point is on this belt. I know what it cost this guy to make this belt, and it's probably much lower than you guys would think. It is a painful experience to try to break one of these things in. You actually have to get used to the belt versus the belt get used to you. Next up is the 13 millimeter strong belt by Mark Bell, howmuchyoubench.net. This belt, I actually have a 10 millimeter and a 13 millimeter. I've actually misplaced the 10 millimeter. So we're going to do the review on the 13. The 13 actually measures out to be right around 13. Some places are too thick. If you're in the IPF or USAPL or USPA or any other really federation that actually checks their gear, be careful. Make sure that your belt is less than 13 or right at 13. Also, this belt actually measures over the 10 centimeter mark at about 101 millimeters. Again, if the federation, the meet director is strict, they may kick these belts out, or this one is, initially. They are made in the United States. I do believe they're made by the same company that makes the Rowoh Ohio belts, Weaver Leather, up in Ohio. These belts retail at $135 for the 13, $120 for the 10. They're available in black or red. A good pro for these is if you need a belt quick, these things are usually in stock. They ship out quickly. The manufacturing of these, as far as raw material goes, it's 3 pieces of leather, actually dyed leather. You can tell how it's red on both sides. There's actually a iron-on foil stamp, it looks like, for their logo and on the tongue. The 3 pieces of leather are very, very soft. I would assume that they are some sort of curried shoulder. That is verbiage from my leather supplier. And 1 piece of suede. So you've got essentially 3 4-millimeter pieces of leather and 1-millimeter piece of suede. The buckle is a thin-walled seamless roller. You got 7 female and male rivets. These rivets probably will never come out, but as far as a male and a female rivet goes, no pun intended, the male fits into the female, and once it's driven, it swells, and the female doesn't allow the male to come out. I would assume that these things are going to be, the belt loops are stapled, essentially. So this is common for tack and saddlery, which also leads me to believe that Weaver's making these things. This belt loop will come out at some point. There's no doubt about it. If it's not riveted, it's going to come out at some point. Quick shipping for a pro. They're pliable. I know that Mark offers or advertises that these things are pre-broken in. They're not pre-broken in. They're actually just soft leather. And the one thing that really surprises me, and actually what I would consider a con as far as manufacturing goes, is that the 3 pieces of leather are not glued or adhered at all other than the stitching. So I don't know if you've seen videos, but they make a really weird, nasty noise. The reason being is because those leather pieces are rubbing together. I don't think this belt's going to last you very long. I know they don't offer any sort of guarantee on it. I do think that Mark and his team have good customer service, so they may be able to do something with you if these things come delaminated. But they're not working together as one, the leather pieces. So essentially it's going to tear, probably from hole to hole first. Belt loop's going to come off second, vice versa. The one thing that I would nitpick on this, especially for $135, is you can't really tell very well, but the finishing on this belt, if you would just take an extra 5 minutes per to sand them down, to skive them, and then edge them with a little more care, you would actually have, I think, a better finished product. The materials, this is also a con for manufacturing. The materials used are not really ideal for the application. You want to use the least amount of layers as possible. The thickness of the leather, the durability of the leather is going to be what makes a good belt. These with the 3 thinner pieces aren't really ideal for what you guys are trying to get at of a belt. The adhesive in between the 3 pieces of leather not being there is a big deal for me as far as manufacturing goes. I do think that this belt could be really good for most, as long as you're not really looking for a belt to last you forever, maybe something to get you into a powerlifting competition or get you through some training until you have another better belt en route. Next up is the Rowoh Ohio belt. You guys have probably seen these. I know they're more into CrossFit, but the belt itself, you don't get a choice in thickness. This one comes in anywhere in between 9 millimeters and 10 millimeters thick, almost right at 100 millimeters or 10 centimeters wide. They are made in the United States. I do believe that these guys and the Strong belts are made in the same manufacturing plant. The reason being, same buckle, same rivets, and same design, and similar feel. So this leather, it doesn't have suede on the inside. It's just 2 pieces of shoulder or curried shoulder sewn together. There is no adhesive in here either. So this belt itself is going to be very, very pliable. It's going to be comfortable out of the box. It isn't going to last forever, but it will be a good belt until it does break. It does. They're $108, I believe, shipped. They are stock belts, so they should ship quickly. It does have a thin seamless roller buckle along with those 7 male and female rivets. The cons of this belt, again, are not ideal for the application. They are geared more towards comfort than support, I believe, with this belt, which is completely fine, especially because they're geared more towards the power or towards the CrossFit market. With the belt being $108 and being, I know, an inexpensive leather at about 4.5 to 5 millimeters thick, the leather doesn't cost that much. The way they put it together doesn't cost that much. So I do think that it may be a little overpriced, but the belt itself is not bad. Like I said, it used either a curry shoulder or a soft skirting or tooling leather. Next up is the Cardillo belt. This is actually the one belt that surprised me the most. They don't give you a choice in thickness. You do have different options, but this one is 12 millimeters thick almost all the way throughout. It is too wide for competition, even though it says that it's within specs. It comes in to be about 102 to 103 millimeters wide throughout the entire belt. It is made in the States. It's being made by a company called Bashland Industries out of Pennsylvania. So Bashland's making these belts. The stock belt is $170, which is way more than any other stock belt. These things can be customized. The custom work takes 14 to 16 weeks, and they're going to be well over $200 to $300. The manufacturing process and raw materials, they use a soft skirting or shoulder leather glued together, unlike the Rogue and the Strong belts. So the belts actually, the leather actually works as one in unison. And it has two pieces of, not suede like everybody else, but this is actually what I would consider like an upholstery leather, something similar to your car seats or your sofas at home. Pros for these belts are that they ship quickly. They're pliable. They're nice out of the box. This belt only comes, I believe, in double prong, which is okay if the belt's pliable. They're kind of a pain in the butt if they are thick. The cons on these is the pricing is too much, in my opinion. $170 for just a plain black belt is, a plain black prong belt especially, is too much. But the belt itself is good. The one and only thing that I would change about this belt, or I think they could actually make a better product, is if they spent a little bit of extra time with the finish. You can tell easily that, you won't be able to see this on here, but the sanding on the edges could be done better. The actual painting of the edges could be done better. Outside of that, the belt is good. They have a good thick-walled seamless roller buckle. They actually have 9 different rivet and burrs, which is those washer and rivets in this belt. So covered with the unique features of this is it's a different feel because it's a thin shoulder leather along with this garment leather on the inside and the outside. So it's much different than everybody else's. I do think it's a really good belt. I do think it's overpriced, but if price isn't an issue, it's actually a good belt. Next up is the SBD belt, and this is one that I know you guys are going to be interested in. So I took some extra time to try to figure out exactly what was used for this leather. First off, when you order this belt, you don't get a choice in thickness, you just get the SBD belt. The belt itself ran anywhere between 12.5 and 12.8 millimeters thick, well within specs. The belt itself, I gauged it at 101 millimeters wide throughout. The belt itself, which is just the stock belt, is $227. There's no custom options other than size, obviously. So you've got, as far as manufacturing goes and raw material, you have 3 separate pieces of leather plus 1 piece of suede. The outside piece of leather is obviously this dyed black piece. I did watch all the YouTube videos. The belts themselves check out to be pretty similar to what they say. They're a veg tan shoulder. All of veg tans leathers take a long time, so the 5 months, trying to get the belt to be awesome is just advertising terms. But the belt itself is nice. You can tell that it's done by a machine. The belt is almost laser straight. The holes are almost all perfect. The buckle itself, which we'll get to in just a second, is well made. The one and only thing that I would probably change with this belt is they need to take a little bit of extra time and skive these edges like you guys see from time to time on our live videos. I think it would help tremendously with the comfort of the belt. But as far as the stiffness goes, I think it's going to break in. I think it's going to be a good belt overall, for the life of the belt, for as long as you guys use it. So the lever belt is what the lever on this belt is what everybody is actually interested in. I do think this is the reason why it's approximately $100 more than it should be. The belt itself is nothing super special. There's nothing super extravagant about it or groundbreaking about it. Now the lever is adjustable. You don't have to use a screwdriver anymore. So that is one thing that these guys have over the rest. I will give them props on the finishing of their belts outside of the skiving. It's much better done than any of the other ones that I've reviewed thus far. The belt is extremely durable. I don't see any problems with any of it. The levers are going to have the same problems. Those prongs are going to break at some point if they're dropped or thrown across the deal. But as far as this belt goes, if you want to spend the $300 or $227 for a plain belt, it's going to be a good belt. You're going to get the ease of use of the lever, but you can get a comparable belt or a better belt without the lever for half that price. Next up is the Titan Brahma belt, which is a 13 millimeter belt. Measures out nowhere under 13 millimeters. This one goes anywhere between 13.2 millimeters and 14.4 millimeters. Obviously way out of specs for IPF, USAPL, USPA, even though it does say that their belts are, IPF approved. But anyways, this belt is $129. They are customizable. You can do some cool stuff with these. They advertise 4 to 5 week lead time. I think that's for non-customs. I think when you get a custom belt, it jumps up tremendously to about 12 to 16 weeks. The manufacturing process and raw materials are very similar to ours. They use 2 pieces of sole leather and 2 pieces of suede. They are glued throughout and they are sewn with actually triple stitching on these. So the quality of the materials is great. It is going to break in over time because there is no robust leather. There is no cheap materials in these to keep them from. They do have a good thick-walled seamless roller buckle. They do use those rivets and stems. Rivets and burrs, I believe is what they're called. The one and only thing that I don't like about the Titan belt, and I'm not real sure why they do it this way, but the the belt loop on them is super thick. The belt itself is a good belt. They're made in America, they're made in Texas. These people have been nothing but good to me. I have nothing but good things to say about them, other than the fact this belt doesn't meet any Federation specs. Next up is a Best belt. Best belt is and has been highly revered as one of the best belts out there. The guys and gals last name that owns the company is Best. It's Dean and Jackie Best. This belt was a 10 millimeter. It mics out to be anywhere between 9 millimeters and 10 millimeters. It is made in the States. It is about 98 millimeters wide throughout, well within specs. It is IPF approved. It retails for $110. It's available in different colors. They advertise a 5 to 7 week lead time. So for manufacturing and raw materials, they use one solid piece. For a 10 millimeter belt, they use one solid piece of sole leather and 2 pieces of suede. It is double stitched around the holes. They use a thin-walled roller buckle. They also use oversized female and male rivets, just like the Inzer belt does. These rivets, like I said, I don't think they're ever going to come apart. They look super sturdy, but they're not any sturdier than any of the others available on the market. It's a good piece of leather, 2 good pieces of suede put together well. So the belt itself is going to last. It's going to form. It's going to provide the support. It's going to perform like you would expect a good leather belt to perform. As far as cons go, I really don't see any cons in a Best belt. If I had to put a recommendation outside of Pioneer, I would give my money to Best at $110. Best belts get a thumbs up from me. So here's for the Pioneer belts. We actually manufacture these all here in-house. I'm not going to cut this one up because it's actually someone's order, but it's very similar to the Best belts. It's made with one solid piece of sole leather bands, and 2 pieces of suede. It is riveted together in 6 different spots, as you can see back here. The belt loops are riveted. This belt mikes out to be anywhere between 9 and 10 millimeters thick. It is about 99 millimeters wide throughout. Obviously, it's made here in Texas with us. The belt itself starts at $75. There's endless customization options. As far as custom belts, they're right around 5-week lead time. The 10 millimeter belt is 1 solid piece of leather, 2 pieces of suede, glued and sewn together. They are guaranteed for life. As you guys might know, if you haven't ever watched us or seen us on social media, you won't know this, but we're very, very open with the process. I do videos with the guys outside making the belts. We try to answer as many questions as we can using visual evidence of what we actually do here. So a pro, like I said, is guaranteed for life. Quality materials and quality build process. The cons, if you do get a custom belt, if you want to put your name on it or an image or a business logo or anything like that, it can get pricey. Also, lead times can get long during certain parts of the year. We have a Christmas sale coming up, so lead times will extend at that point.
So there you go, one of the most insightful belt videos I've seen. Like I said, I learned a lot from this. Hopefully you did too. If you like this video, make sure you show your support by hitting that like button, and go follow Matt on his Instagram page, which I'll link in the description below, as he oftentimes does live streams showing you exactly how they craft the belts, putting them together. You might even see your own belt being built if you ordered through them, which I highly recommend, as they are my favorite belts that I've worn and used. And in the meantime, as always, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you next time.